Okay, I've got a new project I'm about to start, so I've come up with the idea of an app I'd like to make, which will involve synchronizing the speed music's playing against the speed you're running as something of a running app. So, yeah, a little bit of planning so far. I've decided I'll be calling this app Soundstride, and yeah, we'll start by making a PID document. We'll use ChatGPT 5 here. I'll force high reasoning. I'm using T3 Chat to create this initial document. We'll take it from there. So you're going to start by saying I'd like to create a PID document for an AI assistant to help me create a new running app titled Soundstride. This app is going to be geared around synchronizing the speed music plays against the cadence of the runner. I'll have this app in Flutter, as that's a language I'm familiar with. We'll use Riverpod for state management, and we will also need to use native Android libraries so that we can dynamically change the speed of the song's playback as the speed of the runner or a target speed might change. We'd look at a few modes of matching the speed of the music to the running. So we might create profiles of a specific targeted run. We might be measuring distance run using GPS on the phone and having at different times and at different distances we'll play a different speed. We might just have speed of music over time, but the core function would be setting a target speed, and with that target speed, ideally we would find a midway point between the runner's current speed and their targeted speed and set the music to be at that speed. The trick to make this work is we will have a library of music at a fixed beats per minute, and then we will scale the speed we're playing that music back, knowing if it's all at 160 beats per minute, then if we want the music to be at 140 beats per minute, we would find out the percentage difference we need to slow that playback speed to make it the right speed, and also look to have that pitch corrected so that it doesn't sound like a chipmunk or something really slow motion. Initially not targeting Apple as my development environment and familiarity is with Android, but with Flutter we could look at building in the future for Apple and using native Apple libraries for that too. Other considerations, we'll build our own library of music. Initially I'm going to create some tunes in Suno, targeted with a set rhythm that will be good to run against. Again, ideally the app will be tracking distance using GPS and your cadence using the accelerometer on the phone. Long term, we might even record maps and be able to present those to the user, and ideally store them as GPX files so that we might be able to export them to other tools. But that's not the primary thing to be getting our MVP out with. The MVP will be synchronizing the music to the desired speed. Yeah, so I'd like a full PRD built around this concept, and we'll refine it from there. So using some dictation, we've got everything we've just described there. We're going to call it Soundstride like that. me or ask me if there is anything obvious I have left out at this stage we should consider and factor into our PRD document. Cool. So now we've got a bit of a description. PID, PRD, there we go. It knows what we're talking about. So we've discussed what we want our app to be doing, and we can see that ChatGPT is thinking about what we need to be doing. So it's thinking about that, and we're going to get a document shortly that we'll punch into our project, and then we can start building the skeleton of our project and iterating over and over to get our app that we want. So just thinking a wee moment because we did ask it to use high reasoning effort. Okay, so here we know. So sounds right's going to synchronize to the target pace, MVP focus, we want tempo matching, pitch corrected, audio enhancements. This looks like everything we're after. I'm not worried about that. We can look at that later. Now, is it asking us any questions at the end? So it's obviously thought about this a lot already. Still thinking, there we go. Here's some questions. What audio formats? Hopefully we can just use MP3s. Okay, so let's answer those first. Okay. Quickly answering the questions in point 23 of the current version of the PID document. I believe initially we'll use MP3 files, and we will hard build our audio files to be the exact BPM. So we don't need to computer verify that. We might create multiple playlists in different set BPMs, so maybe a 120 and 160, so that if we are starting to play a new song and the target rate's going to be closer to one or the other, we can use the music that's already starting at the right or the closest place and then scale that music. Well, the music we're generating will all be commercially usable by ourselves, so we don't need to worry about that. Now let's see what else that we want. So acceptable time stretch. Let it finish our. I clicked out of there. There we go. Okay, and so next questions here. Target coach. With the targeted, let's get rid of that. Okay, let's work through these questions one at a time. I expect we don't want to scale music more than about 30 beats per minute in any given direction. So if we need to scale further, I think we put a floor or a ceiling on the scaling at 30 beats per minute from the music that we have. So if we're playing from 160 beats per minute music, we don't scale it further than down to 130 or up to 190. When outside of the range, I think we just kept the ceiling or the floor, but obviously if the range is clearly going to be out of bounds and we're choosing the next track, we might choose from a different library where the base BPM is not so far out. So then next we've got the question, when only target pace is given, do you want a short calibration to learn the stride length or use the default cadence pace model? I think we start within our lower bounds, and ideally we can start scaling that music within 4 or 5 seconds of moving, and that hopefully that's not too disruptive, but we can experiment with that. And how aggressively should we converge to the target? I think we should, if we have a target and we're not at that target, then we would go halfway between our current tempo and the target. And I expect we're probably going to look at every 4 to 5 seconds calibrating what our current average steps per minute over the last 5 seconds might be. But again, we can do some experimentation with that. Minimum Android version 26 sounds fine. Not treadmill mode makes sense. We can do that because the GPS will only be required for modes that are distance based. As much as tracking distance will be nice, even if it's not distance-based requirement. So yeah, a treadmill mode that doesn't concern itself with that would be nice. Now what have we got next here for the clarification questions? Okay, let's have content here. Initially, probably not having voice cues, but definitely long term having a voice prompt to say distance reached, or perhaps a periodic vocal nudge to increase the cadence to reach the target could be nice. But that's not necessary for day one. In terms of reaching a target for something like a 5k run, if you have a set cadence you're after at the 5k mark, I do think it would be nice that it stays at that cadence after 5k rather than just terminating the music, because your GPS might have you actually running 5.2k's on an actual 5k race, and you don't want your music to stop 200 meters short of the end, for example. I don't think we need a metronome going in an audio sense. We could have some visual indicator of the beats per minute though. We would want to consider a lock mode for the app and having a no sleep mode on that lock mode, so that a phone doesn't go into a sleep mode that may interfere with the performance of the app. We could also look at possibility of the app being able to do these core functions when minimized or in the background. No specific visual style preferences at this stage, but we'll obviously iterate and refine that over time. Initially, we'll store all of this locally. Down the line, we can look at authentication and storing data in the cloud. And during initial MVP stages, at least, we'll store sample library music in the app on the device, but again look at creating a catalog that we store on the internet that can be downloaded as required. Okay, what else have we got here? Export, GPX export formats. In terms of GPX export formats, we don't need to get too in the weeds in that at this stage. In terms of the roadmap, iOS is more of a long-term goal. So we would have the app in a near effectively complete state before we revisit potentially adding Apple support. Just that in this text box. Oh, no, we don't need. We'll skip that for now. That's elaborating on the questions there. So hopefully we can now have a much more comprehensive PID that we can punch into our future prompt requests. It's going to have to think about that for a little bit. Here we go. So now we've got our second MVP. Let's see what we've got here. So okay, that's a neat thought, that perhaps you might have the beats per minute at half the desired cadence to be on the footfall. I don't think we'd have that as the default, but it's something definitely to consider. Might mean we need to build some much slower music as well. I think all of this is all right. Let's just have, okay. Okay, let's start initially. It'll be 1 beat per step, but a 1 beat per 2 steps mode could be a neat option down the line as well. So we'll definitely leave that as a consideration, but doesn't need to be at MVP stage level 1. Confirm midpoint with previous set point over midpoint with current cadence. For the convergence formula, my expectation would be we would take your current cadence, and if we have a target BPM, we would make our current BPM be halfway between the target and your current cadence. My very first set of music I'll load will be 160 BPM, but yeah, we definitely down the line could look at having some other intervals in the library. But yeah, initially we'll start with 160. A crossfade between tracks would be quite nice, so you're certainly happy to factor that in. There could be a no crossfade option down the line in the preferences. The lock screen mode doesn't need to be on by default, but should be a pretty simple button to press to go into lock mode. And probably a system preference might be an option that would say when in running mode to go into lock mode if no buttons are pressed within a set period of time, such as 15 seconds. We missed that bit there. I think treadmill mode would be a manual toggle at this stage. Now, what the GPX do? We need that in MVP. Let's keep storing the GPS data if GPS mode is on, and store our cadence over time along that GPX data if possible, for sure. Okay, other things. I also think we could store using SQLite all of our current setup preferences and various bits of data, such as a list of all of the songs and when they've last been played and such. I think it could be quite nice if we have a shuffle mode that would prioritize from the songs that have not been played particularly recently, so that it can be mixed up without, if in true shuffle mode you keep getting the same song, that can be a little bit disruptive too. Okay, and now I suppose we want to make this give us the full PRD in one shot now. So with these updated bits of feedback, can you please create the full and final PRD, barring any other obvious questions you'd like to ask first? There we go. It's got lots of thoughts there. The joy of AI thinking away in the background. There we go. So this is going to describe almost like a Bible of sorts of what we need to think about as we plan our app. So we'll get all of this and we'll save it in our PRD document here once we finish thinking. Awesome. So let's take this, copy that, paste that in there. Save that. Now I've made a wee tool here, my context dropper, that is it's a way I can quickly take a document like this and all of the component parts and ask prompts in the future, but it's nice to describe the app first. Can you give me a 3-sentence description of this app to begin prompts with, to lead prompts with in asking for help from an AI agent? Will describe the full intended purpose of the app. So it's nice to open up saying what SoundStride is and then say I need help with this particular question. There we go. That's perfect. Put that there. Now when we drop the context there, we get this file that's got our PID, and soon it will have the rest of what we're doing. So if we paste that in there, upload our context file. So we're going to find SoundStride. The context file has the full PID document. What are the first steps to building out this app? There we go. Using Gemini 2.5 Pro, as I've found that to be really good to date for this type of back and forth. Just thought I'd experiment a bit using GPT-5 with the reasoning to create our PID document. but I do like the really large context window that we get with Gemini. So here we go. So we'll start by creating the Flutter project. So we go into Visual Studio. We want to view the terminal here. Create our Flutter project. And go into that directory. Now we want to follow some of these basic instructions. So we want to get rid of this file. And we want to create some extra directories here for the structure to be nice and tidy going forwards. So it's lib. I'm going to edit that, but we're also going to create some new directories. Audio core data run sensors and run. Perfect. And we're going to edit that. Okay, so we're going to update our pubspec.yml. So this is going to be adding our state management, the audio library, our sensor libraries, some of our data storage libraries, and track our music directory as well. So pubspec.yml, and we're going to copy the contents of that, replace that. There we go. And now we've got to go update our Android manifest.xml. So I'm going to copy that, and so that's Android app source main. Yep. Add that. While we're at it, let's update our context file. So when we tell AI prompts, it knows the contents of our Android manifest. I think there's another Android manifest file that's worth telling it about as well. Now that might come up later. That's all good. Okay, and then we're going to update our main file with this starting copy. So go to our main.dart, replace it with our new placeholder. Run pubget. There we go. So now we should be able to run that. Oh, let's use our emulator. Starting the emulator. Let's try that again. A couple of errors. Well, wonder why Riverpod's not happy. Just while we're at it there, let's add main.dart there. And let Flutter build its first instance. Pass those errors and see what it thinks about that. So it does think it needs to finish its pubget. Might just need this to finish. Okay. Looks like the versions asked for may be incompatible with the latest release of Flutter. So telling Gemini which versions are out there, give us a new... Oh, thinks it's happy, but it still has that error. It's annoying. There we go, that's happier. Okay, let's go create our sensor service. So we need a new file in sensors.dart. Copy that, add that. And we're going to display that in our main app. That should be able to see that. Live source sensors. Did it want us to do everything under a source directory before? Did. Cool. Let's try running that. Seems to have a build that's getting stuck in the background. Let's close, reopen, and we'll restart our emulator. There we go. Use our Android emulator, and we'll start debugging. Okay. So we're up to main.dart, updated that. So we should see the X, Y, Z as we move our phone. Now let's grab... Aha. So we have a sad time building. Let's find out what that's all about. Copy that. Okay. Flutter clean, Flutter run. Let's give that a go. This can take quite a while when building for the first time with a new project. I have just done a full rebuild of my Flutter environment too, so might take longer than usual. Looks like we've got some life. There we go. Great. Let's jump over here. Okay, so we're just going to try and skip past the accelerometer stuff in the emulator for testing. But we do have the starting shell of the program compiling and running, which is a good start. Oh, fantastic. So it's giving us some advice here to go to the virtual sensors and to how do we play around with that? There we go. So our accelerometer is working, and we can pretend to move it, and we can even record. Now where's our record button here? So while on the virtual sensors tab, select the record and playback at the top. Where is our record and playback? Oh, down here. Okay. So if we go here and then virtual sensors and we say that we're moving it, then we stop the recording. So now we can play. That should affect our oh, that's just a we want a macro recording. Okay, save. Let's macro. There we go. This is a macro showing us the example of walking into a room. That's exactly what we want for testing movement cadence. Perfect. Okay, so let's skip past that. Stop that. Don't need this anymore. Okay, let's continue working towards our MVP. So it thinks away. It's looking at the next steps based on our MVP. We've put in our PRD document here. So we've got a whole bunch of minimum goals to get our program functional. So what's our next job? Okay. So we're going to create a new file in our sensors directory, which is our Cadence service file. It's going to track our cadence based on the accelerometer data. So I'm going to copy that file there, paste it in, and we are going to update our main file again. And that's probably all we need. So let's run and debug. Should be happier this time. So let's walk into the room. Oh, still rebooting. Try walking into the room again. There we go. It thinks we're walking at 120 steps per minute as per the macro that we've got. It's fantastic. Awesome. So we'll carry on with our next steps. Okay. So it's thinking about what to do next. So now we need to see if we can play our music at a different speed. So it's time to work on the playback engine. So I'm going to create our audio service.dart. Okay, so we jump back here, new file, audio service.dart. Copy that file in there. Update main.dart. Cool. And let's see that that does what we want. So we'll reload the app. So now we have a playback speed. And if I hit play with our music, we can slow it down. And we can speed it up. Let's not close the app. Go back there. Let's reload it. So we can slow it down and we can speed it up. Perfect. So we can play music. So let's go to the next bit where we change the speed of the music based on the tempo. Perfect. Let's continue. So now we're going to go to the next stage, which is going to link the walking cadence to the music speed. Okay. So we're going to want to create a run model.dart in the models directory. A new directory here. Models. New file. Copy that in there. A database service 2. So it's in the data directory. Copy that. I'm going to track our runs. Copy that. In we go. So we've got our persistence layer. Okay, so we can run and store information. And next we create the run management service. Continue. There we go. Now what's the warning there? Collection.dart. I don't think we're using that yet, but that's all good. Run service.dart. So that's in the source/run. Copy that, paste that. Update main. There we go. So if we run that, while we're at it, let's update our context files here. Expand all these out. Actually, let's just put the whole source directory in here with all the Dart files. that way any new Dart file we add will be added to our context file. So when we generate our context, this file describes the full directory structure and is including all of our Dart files. All 42 kilobytes so far. Okay. So it's building that, hopefully. Let's stop and restart it. So this should come up in just a moment. Here we go, new file, and in we go. So if I bring this up, start playing that, we'll be going at 120 steps per minute. It's not tracking that until we hit play, perhaps. There we go. So it's playing the music, and I can pause the music. And when I pause, it stops tracking our steps per minute. Play again. Stop. Okay, so we're tracking running time and steps per minute. It's all just in a test capacity at this stage. Start a run, see the timer, live cadence, pause, resume. Finally stop the run, which will save to the local database. That's cool. Awesome. Okay. Fantastic. What is next to progress our MVP? Okay. So I was thinking about what's next worth tracking, whether you want to do, well, GPS sounds a little bit early for where we're at, but here we go. We're going to track our GPS location. Okay, so let's add the GPS tracking to the app. So it's a sensor GPS service.dart. And we copy that, paste that. I'm gonna update our run service to track our GPS location. It doesn't like that. Source. Why does it not see that? Sensors GPS service.dart. Should see that. Let's add main.dart. GPS service.dart. Why can that file not see that file? GPS service.dart in the sensors directory, which is under the source directory. Ah, had a typo there. That was a bit sloppy. There we go. Should run happy now. So now it's working. It's going to be at a fixed speed, but if we play that macro, we should know it's at 120 steps per minute. Okay, I went off on a bit of a rabbit hole to find out how to record simulated walking, and carried on recording doing that, but my microphone went out, so just picking up, you can see a few changes have happened in the app while I was doing some of that testing. I did add a volume knob here, progress for the current playing song here as well, where we can also scale, whilst we're in debugging mode, the speed of the song, just to confirm everything's working as intended based on current steps per minute. Yeah, and having the volume control makes it just a little bit easier using the testing whilst I'm also trying to talk. So yeah, we missed about 30-40 minutes of further experimentation and debugging, but yeah, been able to load an actual running route there. You can see whilst we're in playback mode, it's showing the distance there. Whilst playing, the active steps per minute would still be using the macro playback if we were playing that, but yeah, currently not showing on the debug mode because we've got that set aside for a manual override whilst I'm just doing some testing. Normally it would be displaying on a deployment version of the app the steps per minute, but yeah, getting there. Might sign off for now and start pulling this app into more of a usable state, so we can start getting the various modes we want and have it provide a real live link to your current run with music that follows the run itself. Thanks for following along. Bye.